It's 2025 and we're at the end of February and I need some help. Anyone else?
Yeah, heck yeah.
I need help with organizing my life, prioritizing, and feeling generally good about myself. And that's where the self help genre comes into play. So, today's for book tasting. We're going to look at the first pages of some incredible self help books, why the genre is so popular, and you, the audience, can see if you can guess which book is coming. And to help make today, to get a little real self help, we brought our drink. Teresa, take off. Oh, I'm Morgan. Sorry.
I'll go. This is Teresa.
And this is Molly.
And we need some help, like real help.
We really do.
There we go.
Yeah. So today's drink was supposed to be a rum drink of your choice. I literally got home like 2 minutes before we got live. So my husband made me a gin and tonic, which I really desperately need. So it works for me. What else? What are you guys drinking?
I'm in the exciting world of water. My husband might bring me a drink in a little bit, but I also just got home and recently finished working out. So I need to rehydrate. Hydration.
Rum. Straight coconut rum. Straight. Going for it. Love my rum. And, probably not the best choice for our self-help, like how we're going to treat ourselves. But that's okay.
Molly's doing great.
Because so Molly is kicking off the genre. What's great about this genre is it helps us make good choices. It's one of the most popular genres. If you're a writer and you're looking to actually monetize outside of romance, self-help is a great way to get into the industry. It's a great way to write a book, to get more active, and to build a clientele. So we see a lot of people do it to launch their career. So self-help is a really great genre if you're looking for a business, to get your business motivated, or you're looking to break into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys ready for your first pages?
I am. I'm excited. Oh, and by the way, we have no idea. Like Morgan has completely hidden this from us.
Yeah.
I guess I want to add something here. Like for some of you already know this about me, some might not. I really don't like self-help books. So I'm interested to see what Morgan has picked out for us. I'm interested to read these first pages, and I'm trying to come at this with like a curious mindset and not come in like prejudging and being like, well, I don't like this. This is stupid. Like I'm trying not to do that. And I'm trying to find some curiosity, find some like, okay, why do people enjoy this? What can I learn from this experience? So I'm excited to learn more, and maybe we'll see if my mind changes.
Awesome.
I just got to figure out how, hold on.
We can keep
and
talking.
I'll talk more.
I can talk.
Yeah, Teresa, what do you think?
So I actually really like the self-help genre. There can be an element of, a lot of the information in a lot of the books can be a little repetitive, but I can't tell you how many times I've read a leadership book and been like, I knew this, but I'd forgotten this. Or yes, ma'am.
It's going to tell you the title. I can't find the picture. And I can tell you. I had it in another window, but it won't let me present it with the streaming service. So, okay. I'm sorry about this. I'll read it anyway.
Just read it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I'm sorry, Molly, if this one doesn't get you going, like there's no help for you. Just kidding.
Just kidding. I'm helpless. Wait, I listen first, then I'll decide if I'm helpless.
The phrase daring greatly is from Theodore Roosevelt's speech, Citizens in the Republic. The speech sometimes referred to as the man in the arena. It was delivered at Sorbonne in Paris, France on April 23rd, 1910. This was the passage that made the speech famous. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong the man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumphs of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. The first time I read this quote, I thought, this is vulnerability. Everything I've learned from over decades of research on vulnerability has taught me this exact lesson. Vulnerability is not knowing victory or defeat. It's understanding the necessity of both. It's engaging. It's being all in. Vulnerability is not weakness, and the uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure we face every day are not optional. Our only choice is a question of engagement. Our willingness to own and engage with our own vulnerability determines the depth of our courage and the clarity of our purpose. And this level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and our disconnection. If we spend our lives waiting until that perfect or bulletproof before we walk into the arena, we ultimately sacrifice relationships and opportunities that may not be recoverable. We squander our precious time and we turn our backs on our gifts, those unique contributions that only we can make. Perfect and bulletproof are seductive, but they don't exist in the human experience. We must walk into the arena, whatever it may be, a new relationship, an important meeting, our creative process, or a difficult family conversation, with courage and the willingness to engage, rather than sitting on the sidelines and hurling judgments and advice. We must dare to show up and let ourselves be seen. This is vulnerability. This is daring greatly. Join me as we explore the answers to these questions. What drives our fear of being vulnerable? And how are we protecting ourselves from vulnerability?
I haven't read this one. It's been on my to-do, but I know who it is.
It showed who it was, didn't it?
No, we don't see anything.
No, we didn't see it.
It didn't work. It didn't show up.
No, we just listened to you. It was lovely.
I thought that you could see it.
No, not the viewers. It's okay. But I like this one. I know this philosophy. This is a person who I quote fairly regularly. And their TED Talk is very famous. They're all over YouTube. And it really is a significant model for teamwork, for leadership, and memes, frankly, in many ways.
Okay, so I think that's a key to self-help genre.
Mm-hmm.
I think self-help is memeable.
I think so too.
I think it's relatable. I think it's something we use to try to motivate each other and motivate ourselves. That's the purpose, right? We talked about our aha moment of certain genres being used to tap into certain things that the audience is trying to get. And I think, Teresa, you make a good point. I think the reason that we see them in leadership and motivational seminars is because that's what the genre is trying to do, right? Is to motivate us to action, I think.
Well, and also to take very complex things and try to put it into a bundle that is easily accessible. And we go, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. And that quote that she started with is such an incredibly powerful one about, and other people have said it differently around this idea of come and walk a mile in my shoes. Then you can tell me what you think. And again, this person is very well known with the leadership and everything else. You can't be a good leader leading from behind. You can't. You have to be with your team. And that's a large part about this too. And Molly, I feel like I'm talking way too much here.
No, I'm just wondering when Theodore Roosevelt gave a TED Talk. You haven't told me who it was, and I don't know. And when you that was just my my attempt at a poor joke. The speech at the beginning that the person is quoting is a Theodore Roosevelt speech, The Man in the Arena, which is a speech I enjoy.
It's a good one. It really is. Do we want to share who this is, Morgan?
Yeah. Does anybody on the chat want to guess?
So the answer is not Theodore Roosevelt, to be clear.
But I want to read.
That's
I want to read
not
Erin.
right.
I love Erin's insight, and I want to share it with the audience because it's so powerful. Half the books on the writing and or art have self-help like elements, right? I'm going to add that's what she said. Because motivation is soups important, and it is because it's talking about, you know, just like stakes are really important in nonfiction, or I mean in fiction. In nonfiction, getting us involved and like involving our ego and our experience and getting us to care through motivation is important. Before I share the author with you, I want to know, Molly, if there was anything you enjoyed about the first page that I read, because you started by telling our audience that you did not like my genre that I chose.
I mean, I don't know, like what do you mean by anything that I liked? Like the writing is fine? Like what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think so. One of the things that I appreciate about self-help is that I love how right away it connects us to something that's relatable. I feel like every person has been in a situation like me right now. My camera is not picking up my hair right, and it's driving me crazy. And I hate it. And I'm like, oh, when am I going to remember to get that done? That's on my to-do list. And I feel like the person in the arena that's like, I feel like, oh, I'm failing at that, right? Or and even as I'm reading the words and I trip up in parts, I'm feeling like I'm in the arena. And while I agree that it has like similarities with the idea of them being in someone else's moccasins, I don't think it's the same, because I do think that when you're talking about people in the arena, I think it's saying, learn from people who've done what you've done. Learn from people who've been there.
Good point.
Be open to criticism. If the person is in the arena, which you two are in the arena with me, if the person is in the arena with you, then they do have some understanding of what it takes, right? And so they do have a perspective to share. The criticism you don't want to fall to is people who aren't willing to put themselves out there or don't understand like I'm a horse trainer and I care very much about what other horse trainers think, but maybe not the person who's never ridden before, or maybe not a beginning rider, you know?
See, that's very interesting. I feel like we're gonna take a slight turn into actually like interpreting Theodore Roosevelt's "The Man in the Arena" speech here. But like to me, that speech is all about like what is more valuable. It is more valuable use of your time to go and try things and to go and do things and to be out there and put yourself out there, even if you fail, even if you don't do things perfectly. That is more valuable and that is more respected, or that is something that should be respected more. Even if you're erring and you look dirty and you fall on your face, that is pushing yourself, that is worth more than the person who sits there pretty, standing by the side, never trying, and then critiques even though they've never gotten their hands dirty, they've never, gone out there. And we shouldn't strive for perfection. We should allow ourselves to go out there even if we risk failure.
And which then that's the perfect lead into what this author was talking about, which is the power of vulnerability.
Yeah. And so this is the preeminent research on vulnerability, Brene Brown. She's very famous for a TED Talk. But what I think is great about her book, Daring Greatly, is that she talks about, she wrote this book right after her TED Talk, and she had received a lot of criticism about her looks and things that weren't related, And so she was taking it to heart, and she's having a difficult time like pushing through, even though she'd been considered a success. And I think as writers, that's so interesting that sometimes when you actually start to get success and you start to get fans and you start to get traction and you start to have things go well, that can almost be more difficult when you receive criticism or feedback, because the bar can almost move higher with vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Well, the bar should keep moving the more that you become skilled at something.
Should it?
Absolutely. Otherwise, why keep pushing yourself to keep doing better and better?
I think the bar for what you expect from yourself might move, but I don't think it's fair, like, especially when Morgan is talking about, like, and this happens a lot with, I guess it happens a lot with anyone, but especially a lot with women, that once they get more success and they're more in their public eye, they become scrutinized for things that aren't even relevant to what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And that level gets higher, and that's not fair. That's not appropriate.
That's completely true. Absolutely.
And what I love about this is that self-help has us talking about ourselves, what we experience in our daily lives, and it causes us to reflect on how we see the world, what we prioritize. And I think that level of reflection is really powerful. But Erin takes it to a new level when she points out that we can build characters in a story by reading a self-help book and taking those to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. And one of my favorite movies does that. It's called Magnolia. And Tom Cruise is like the motivational speaker for self-help in there. And he's the extreme version of that. And they show the juxtaposition in his private life. And it's just really well done. The characterization, that movie is really powerful.
Yeah. And I feel like self-help books can really help with Phoenix arcs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They can when you've got somebody who's really broken and they break, part of the arc is that they break even more, but they arc themselves out and they kind of work to be better. And self-help books can really help with that transition. I feel like give you some good ideas.
May I read you another one?
Always. Do you want me to try to put it on the screen?
Is that on the screen this time or no?
It is not, but I think I can do it. You want me to?
Yeah. Do you have the link?
No, I have the power.
You just intuit it.
It is way too small though.
How did you do that? You're a genius.
She's very smart, but it is not readable.
Okay, well, I will read it out loud and then you can blow it up. I'm going to do my best to make Molly like this one. Are you ready?
Are we going to wait for Teresa to try to make it bigger?
What do you think, Teresa?
I am trying. Nope. Oh God.
No. We've disappeared.
We don't need that. That is the best I can do.
Chapter 1. The lie. Something else will make me happy. I peed my pants last week. Not full on peed my pants, like that one time at summer camp when I was 10 years old. We were playing capture the flag and I couldn't hold it a second longer. I didn't want to admit that I just wet my pants. So I doused myself with a bottle of water. Imagine, if you will, that once all my clothes were wet, no one, most especially Christian Clark, my camp crush, was the wiser. I was resourceful, even then. Did others find it odd that I was suddenly soaking wet? Probably, but I'd rather be an oddball than a pants wetter any day of the week. As for last week, this wasn't that level of peeing my pants. This was just your regular, I've pushed 3 babies out of my body dribbling. Giving birth to a baby is like a space shuttle launch. Everything gets destroyed on the way out, which means that sometimes, you guys, I pee my pants. If this knowledge hurts your tender sensibilities, then I'm going to assume you haven't had bladder control problems, and I offer you my congratulations. However, if my experience makes sense to you, then you probably have this problem too, which means you just laughed a little and having experienced a similar predicament. I was jumping with my boys out back, and somebody hollered for me to show off my midair toe touch. This is my only known skill on the trampoline. And if I'm going to work up the gumption to hoist myself onto that spring-loaded death trap, you'd better believe I'm going to give it my all. So 1 second, I was soaring through the air like one of those extra tiny gals they launched into a basket toss during cheerleading competition. And the next moment, my pants were wet. Nobody noticed, unless you count my pride. But it happened just the same. I had to keep jumping so that the continuous wind rush would dry out my shorts. I'm resourceful, remember? The timing was perfection too. because not 30 minutes later, a previously programmed Facebook post went up showing me trying on a dress for the Oscars. Before you get the wrong impression, I'm not fancy enough to go to the Academy Awards. I am, however, married to someone ultra hunky. He's not really fancy either, but his job certainly is. That means that sometimes I get to wear dresses like a princess and drink free wine in a well-lit ballrooms. And these instances, photos show me on Instagram or Facebook of us looking well coiffed in our ultra glam. And the internet goes wild. This is prime real estate for people to write me notes about how glamorous my life is, how stylish and fashionable and perfect my world must be. And all I can think when I read those comments later is, I just peed myself in public, surrounded by other human beings. I've literally gone to the bathroom in the air while trying to force my hamstrings into unnatural gymnastics positions in order to impress my 3-year-old. Y'all, I'm about as unglamorous as you can get. And I don't mean that in the celebrity stars are like us kind of way. This is not like the time Gwyneth Paltrow went makeup free and her perfect skin with her angel blonde hair tried to convince us that she was just a regular gal, even in her $400 t-shirt. No, I mean literally, I'm not glamorous. I'm 1000% the nerdiest people you're likely to meet. And if you've somehow managed to convince yourself otherwise because I run lifestyle website and pretty pictures, or because my hair looks extra shiny on my Instagram photos, well, sister, let me set you straight. I'm not a perfect wife, not a perfect mother, not a perfect friend or boss, and I'm definitely not a perfect Christian. Not even close. I'm not perfect at anything I do. Well, except for making and eating dishes that are primarily cheese-based. But the other stuff, the life stuff, oh girl, I am struggling. I feel like it's important to say that. Important enough to base an entire book around the idea. Because I want to make sure you hear it. Stop there.
All right. Let's see if I can bring us back.
Two that start with vulnerability.
There we go.
Both start with vulnerability, huh?
They really do. But this one started with a far stronger personal story. And I don't know who this one is, but I probably will pick it up. The other comment I had, and I was taking notes with this one, I was curious to know if it was a memoir, but then as you kept reading, I was like, no, it's not. It's a recipe book. And the other note I made was that I feel like you're not going to pick up a self-help book and not know what it's about or expect what to get out of it. And I thought that was really interesting too.
I thought it was interesting, like both of these authors are playing to their strengths. And what I mean by that is the first author is like an expert in her field and starts off with an appeal to authority and establishing her credentials, and even like an appeal to authority, like literally she's quoting a president, right? And this author starts out with something that is, seemingly her strength, which is her relatableness. And it's not an appeal to authority, and it's not an appeal to say I am an expert. In fact, she repeatedly says, I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect wife. I'm not the perfect whatever. She goes hard into the paint in terms of I'm just like you. And look at my fancy husband. That's how you know me. Right? Like that's probably like when you look at self-help books, why they get picked up, usually a publishing house or an agent picks up a self-help book because they think they can sell it, and they think they can sell it because the person already has a following. Not always, but often.
So my first book was a self-help book, honestly.
In a very niche category.
Yes. It was in a childbirth category. And I mean, it was picked up because I was an expert in the field. Yeah. But you're right. Not everybody's gonna go and pick up a book for men about how to support a woman during labor.
But you are right. You are absolutely right. That is a very important point. You are an expert in the field. And like experts in fields do that as well. That's a very relevant point, that like they get picked up because they are an expert in the field. So that's all I was trying to say, is like both of them clearly know where their background is and clearly know what their strengths are and are laying into their strengths right on the beginning of the page.
And relatability is key.
I think so. I really like that this one started with a very humorous personal story that many people can relate to. I mean, you really can see that happening. And even if you can't, you're not, you haven't had kids, you're not going to do a crazy jump on a trampoline and pee your pants. You've had enough embarrassing moments like that where you can totally see how that would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Her name, just so you know, it's called Girl Wash Your Face.
Oh, right.
Stop believing the lies about who you are so you can become who you were meant to be, by Rachel Hollis.
Yep. People love that. I haven't picked that one up, obviously, but people love that one.
All the books I picked are ones people love. Yeah, that were high. I picked just bestsellers this time. I wanted to really like dive into what people enjoyed about self-help, so our authors that were listening could think about that, and like what Erin was saying, include it in characters, but also think about what people like in that genre, because it's a very popular genre.
I would actually say it is easier to get picked up for a self-help book than it is a fiction book.
Yeah.
And being an expert in your field helps tremendously, but also just phrasing it in a new and unique way or in a very relatable way will also get you picked up.
I mean, I feel like this last one, it's very relatable and it's very approachable and it's very easy to read, right? You could read that tone, that voice for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
That's
a good point.
I think self-help books are extremely accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's part of the idea, right? Is that anybody can read them. Everyone is welcome. It's not so exclusive,
And there is an element. So I hope I don't get in trouble for telling this story. I went to my boss's house a couple weeks ago for a little team building thing. And I don't remember the name of the book, but she had a book on her table. And it wasn't one that I was familiar with, but a lot of people were like, oh, I've tried to read that one and it's really thick and really hard to get through. But what was really fascinating about it was a number of people who were like, oh, I know that book. And there was almost an element of having tried to read it or reading it gave you gravitas in that room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle. Dang, dude, we never see you here.
Yay.
So, yeah. So I thought that was, I thought that's an interesting point of self-help too.
Ready for the last?
Ready for the last one?
The best self-help seller of all time.
Sorry. That's the alcohol making me snicker.
Just with that, I have a guess, but it's not that one. Well, okay, yeah, okay.
It did say what it was. Sorry, Morgan.
Yeah, that's okay. My story. I had a freak life-threatening accident in school. It took 1 year to recover. However, reaching back to the pre-accident level of fitness was very difficult. So I focused on getting my life in order. While my peers stayed up late and played video games, I built good sleep habits and went to bed early each night. In a messy world of a college dorm, I made it a point to keep my room neat and tidy. These improvements were minor, but they gave me a sense of control over my life. I started to feel confident again, and this growing belief in myself rippled into the classroom as I improved my study habits and managed to earn A's during the first year. How this book will benefit you. To write a great book, you must first become the book. Naval, I don't know how to say that, Ravikant, entrepreneur and investor. In the book, I will share a step-by-step plan for building better habits, not for days or weeks, but for a lifetime. While science supports everything I've written, this book is not an academic research paper. It's an operations manual. What I offer you is a synthesis of the best ideas smart people figured out a long time ago, as well as the most compelling discoveries scientists have made recently. My contribution, I hope, is to find ideas that matter most and connect them in a way that is highly actionable. Anything wise in these pages, you should credit to the many experts who preceded me. Any foolish, assume it is my error. Human behavior is continuously changing, but this book is about what doesn't change. It's about the fundamentals of human behavior, useful in business, family, and life in general. The fundamentals, why tiny changes make a big difference. Chapter 1, the surprising power of atomic habits. And then he says the British cycling team for 100 years were mediocre, not winning any medals anywhere. And then he talks about a story about how they win.
Oh, there we go. Well, I knew this one because I've read this one, and I think I like it. I agree. It is the best-selling self-help book of all time.
Even I am aware of this one.
A lot. So let's kind of talk about how he started. So he started with a good personal story. And then here's what the book is, but also doing the genius that is self-help books. Taking a little bit from here, 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 and wrapping it around and tying a bow on it that makes it super relatable. Nothing in Atomic Habits is a new concept. Nothing.
And he says that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I saved you all this extra reading time. Just read this. And then he makes it very accessible so you can speed through it and get all these brilliant ideas without having to read academic research papers. In fact, in some ways, he's like excluding himself from that kind of writing.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, here's an accessible book to give you a lot of good ideas that are going to improve your life. And he tells us exactly how your life's going to improve. He says your family life's going to get better. Your relationships and your business are going to get better. So again, it's like the stakes in the fiction world and the nonfiction world. Here's what I offer, or here's what the book is going to give you.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other part too, he jumps into a really good example too, to prove how the ideas and the concepts in the book have helped others too. And it's a very relatable story as well.
All right, Molly, we've tried to make you love our genre. Get you excited or interested.
I just like to read
3 of the best-selling books in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you like in any of them?
I mean, I go back to the first one, and because I'm familiar with the Theodore Roosevelt speech, I like the Theodore Roosevelt speech, but that's not really an endorsement on the book. I don't think that it is right for me. It is not something that appeals to how my brain is wired. I am Atomic Habits in particular, I am familiar with. It angers me, actually. Like, I have tried to read it, and not angers like I'm angry in terms of like I turn into the Hulk.
Angry at self-help. Try to get better.
Chris Banner agrees with you, by the way. I'm just going to put that out there so you don't feel like you're alone.
Oh,
yeah, Chris Banner's like, yes, angry.
It's more like, especially with books like that, for me, it's hard for me. I have a problem with authority. Okay.
What?
I know. And so self-help books often for me feel like somebody is trying to tell me what to do. And I have a visceral negative reaction to that. So when someone, like, even when I, like,
Hey,
you're
Molly.
reading that story. Yes, ma'am.
Molly, drink.
No.
That was no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was hard for you.
The
But
choice
keep
got
keep
real.
going.
That was really interesting.
I know.
Keep going.
Yeah, but even when that, he's talking and he's like, I just established good sleep habits and then my life got better. And I'm like, well, good for you. And it just like, there's something about it which is great and it's wonderful and I'm happy that it helps people. It rubs me the wrong way. Just rubs me the wrong way.
So
I don't like it.
To me, and I don't want to move into psychoanalyzing you because that's not the point. That's
But in the chat, feel free to psychoanalyze Molly.
To me, that's not giving you the example that you gave is not giving you instructions. And I agree. I also sometimes have problems with people being like, I did this thing and now everything is perfect and you guys should do that too. And I also kind of have that problem of like, you don't know me. You don't know that would work for me.
Yep. That's
Listen
where
to Chris.
I'm at too.
Chris is like,
yeah.
right? If I could just make good sleep habits, girl, I would.
Oh, sweetie.
This doesn't work for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's not. I think I appreciate like, I also have this problem where I think for the first book, it was the easiest one for me because I respected where the author was coming from. Like I respected that the author, like I know who the author is and I know that she's done a bunch of research because even I have watched some of the TED Talks and I like know some of that. She has established credentials.
She truly
I
does.
feel like there are a lot of self-help books, not all, and not even necessarily these ones, where it's just some person who I don't even know if they've had a level of success. And they're just trying to tell me how to live my life. And it's like, why do you have a place of authority? Why do you think you can tell me what to do? Maybe my life is going great. Maybe I don't need to change anything. Maybe I'm awesome just the way I am. And then it spirals from not spirals, but like
just the way you are.
So for me, because I also have a visceral reaction to you can't tell me what to do. You don't know who I am. I view self-help books as a way to grab ideas and I don't have to follow them. And in some ways, Aaron and I are very similar. I don't have to follow them, or I can be like, okay, that's a really intriguing idea. I'm not going to do that. But what that's done is that's triggered me to think, maybe I'll do that. And I find, and Aaron made a really good point very early on in the chat about it being philosophy. I find that self-help books help me think and process through things that are going on in my life or things that I want to reflect upon or change. Doesn't mean I agree with it. What's the book? Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. A lot of good in that book, a lot of stuff I disagreed with, but I often find myself rethinking about some of the concepts that she brings forth in that one. And that one's a little bit more of a memoir than a self-help book, I would say. But to me, it just helps me to think through things a little bit better. And I'm also a firm believer in trying to better myself. I truly, truly am. I do want to get a little bit better every single day because I am a perfectionist and I won't hit that level of perfection unless I keep trying to make myself better.
Okay, let me defend the genre. I'm a big believer that people have blind spots. And I read in the genre to try to figure out what my blind spots are to try to like strengthen that aspect of my personality. And for me, Atomic Habits was actually a blind spot. So when I read it, I was like, oh, like I'm pretty good at vulnerability. So when I read Brene Brown, I'm like, yeah, get it. I agree. But when I read Atomic Habits, I was like, tiny incremental change and consistency. Yeah, no, I'm not so good at consistency. I'm good at more like, let's go. I'm more, jump in. That sounds fun. So I like the idea of like,
sorry, you so hard.
Send me in the arena, whatever, let's play, you know? But the idea of like showing up every day, I'm like, but I think a balanced life, you have both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like about self-help is I'm like, okay, I'm good at this, I'm weak at this. I need to think about balancing this. And it helps me understand the people around me.
Yes, very, very much
successful, and it gives me empathy and compassion for other ways of thinking.
It does. Fiction can do that too. I really think that fiction really can help you view the world through another lens. Go ahead, Molly.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I think with any genre, no genre is going to appeal to everyone. And that is okay. Mm-hmm. And it is okay to take lessons for wherever you're finding lessons, you know? And I think for me, like, it doesn't resonate with me, but that's all right. Mm-hmm. It's all right. Like, I'm choosing not to, that's not an indictment on the genre itself. It's not an indictment on anyone who likes it. I just know for me personally, I also want to improve myself, and I also want to live a fulfilled and happy life. And I don't want to feel like the time that I'm spending, the little time that I have in life is frustrated. So I think that makes it like, I don't enjoy myself when I'm reading self-help. I'm frustrated and I'm kind of irritated. And that's not a good use of my time. And that's okay. And if you find yourself there, that's okay. And if you love self-help, that's awesome. I'm glad for you.
So either way, we don't care what you read. Just enjoy reading. But
just enjoy it.
If for authors, what can they learn if they want to write self-help and they want to be successful? What do our pages teach us? What are our, our tastes?
Oh, I took copious notes. Actually, I really just took notes on how to start.
Go. Chris has a really interesting thought here. And Chris, you've gotten my aha moment here. And she says, I think a lot of issues I've had with that sort of thing, self-help, is the late realization of neurodivergence. The advice never worked and felt preachy. Chris, maybe that's why I'm in the same I might be in the same boat with you. That might be where we're at. That might be what's happening.
That's okay. So, wow. That is a fascinating point because, and I will say this again, I will say this again. I'm not sure I know of a single neurotypical person. My husband is about to yell at me of like, what about me? But that is a really fascinating point that maybe a lot of the self-help books and the self-help advice doesn't resonate with people because, again, it's you're not in my head and you don't understand.
Yeah, and different self-help might work better or resonate more with people whose brains work certain ways.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective. I love that.
Thank you, Chris. Anyway, you took copious notes, Teresa.
Oh, most of my notes were kind of about how they started, and starting with a personal story. And then my note as well about it's important to know what the book is about before you pick it up. I think that's really what makes the first couple pages of a self-help book work or not work. So it was good though.
Teresa, did your self-help book start with a personal story?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago. Probably. I used a lot of personal stories in that one. Yeah. It probably did.
And if someone wants to pick up your self-help book, Teresa.
Oh, I don't even know. I think it's probably out of print, but it's The Dad's Playbook to Labor and Birth. It is a book for men about how to support a woman in labor. It is probably coming up on about 15 years old now, so it's probably a little out of date, and some of the advice may not be as. I mean, labor's labor, but some of the nuances may not be as accurate anymore. Mm-hmm. So.
Teresa didn't know I was going to pitch your book, but you want to pitch something relevant to the semi-stages and something we've been promising, aren't you?
The race to rejection. I was about to say, Molly, tell them all about the race to rejection that we are restarting.
All right, I will tell them if you will drop a link into the chat.
Oh, yeah.
So previously in previous years, we've done this thing called the race to rejection. In that we celebrate your rejections because being an author is difficult. And all just like Theodore Roosevelt says, and Brene Brown says in her book, it's all about vulnerability and putting yourself out there. And you can't accomplish things unless you actually try, unless you go out into the arena. And what that means as an author is you put yourself out there and you get rejections. Everybody gets rejections, and it's difficult and it can hurt. But we want to help celebrate that because it's part of the process and it means we're growing and we're trying and we're putting ourselves out there. We, in fact, are the men in the arena. Bow, 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 bow.
Good job. Good job.
Previous years, we just did a little Excel spreadsheet that was only accessible via our Discord. But this year, we're going to change it up and we're going to make it accessible to everyone via our website. So if you, Teresa went and put a link in our website, we'll be posting it other places as well. But you can log rejections there. Also, we're going to make it more formal in terms of there's going to be more prizes throughout the year. And Teresa, do you want to tell them about the title system? Like they can be, yeah.
So you can actually earn titles.
Wait. I'm listening. Like what kind of titles? Like a deed to a house?
Yes, exactly. A deed to a house.
We don't have that kind of money. We need a lot more patrons for that. Sign up with our Patreon.
Join our Patreon. Maybe. No.
I was trying.
That was awesome. So you can get a title that goes all the way from citizen to emperor or empress. And the way you get a title is dependent on how many rejections that you have.
An empress of rejection or ejection, either one.
Yeah.
Not ejection. Let's not say that.
Rejection.
Yeah.
And the other thing we're going to do with this is that you can go ahead and you can change your Discord name to be whatever it is your title is. We're going to have a lot of really fun prizes, assuming I get my act together. I'm planning to. A lot of really fun prizes around what your title is and everything else. So you can jump on the website, you can see what they are, but it goes from citizen from 1 to 4 rejections. And then emperor, empress is 50 plus rejections. Yeah. And then there's everything kind of in between.
So the more rejections you have, the bigger of a title you have. And like Teresa said, kind of you can level up. And I'm going to do my best as you're logging rejections to kind of change your role in the Discord to reflect your latest title. We're probably going to do it once a month kind of thing. So we're not, going too crazy. But like Teresa said, hopefully make announcements every month, maybe some prizes every month, and really celebrate putting ourselves out there and supporting each other.
Exactly. So our monthly book tastings, that is our trigger to ourselves to tally up the winners and go ahead and send out those prizes. And whoever gets the most rejections at the end of the year is going to go ahead and earn a $50 gift card to bookshop.org. The year started January 1st. So jump into that Google form and start logging those rejections. The other thing about it, the other rule about it is that if you submitted and you haven't heard anything for about a year, you can log that as a rejection. That's totally fine. Okay. I know sometimes that happens.
Or if whatever the criteria that the agent or the menu or the magazine or whatever you're submitting says, they might say, if you haven't heard from us in 3 months, consider it a rejection. Okay, cool. Log it as a rejection then whenever they say it's good with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right.
Should we announce who was the winner from last year?
Yes.
So I will say,
and then drink. Drum roll and drink.
I will say our rejection royalty from 2013 or 2023 is in the chat. If he's still here, is Kyle.
Yeah.
But that was 2023. Great job, Kyle. 2024 was a new year, new rejection royalty, and this year I managed to make it close, but I did not win. It was in fact Richard Crawford.
Yeah! Yay, Richard!
Nice job, Richard, with a total of 32 rejections last year. So
good for
did a great job.
Good for you. That is so awesome.
Talking about being in the arena.
Yeah, that's almost 3 a month. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And I know he went on hiatus for a little bit, so like going on hiatus and still racking up 32 rejections is great. I'm impressed. This year, hope we all, if that's your goal, we all get there, maybe even more. Get that emperor, empress title.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right, anything else we got tonight? No, I think that's it. So jump on our Discord. Don't forget next week, Chris Banner is hosting the Write and Sketch on Tuesdays from 4 to 6. So feel free to jump in on that. She's doing that in partnership with the Temecula Valley Writers and Illustrators group as well. So I think that's it, you guys. Stay informed, stay safe, and take care, everyone.
Go right.
All right. Now here's the
Bye.
awkward part where I end the stream and
I
we
drank
hang
my
out.
rum, so everything.